Sutanase, Alycia Two Bears Nitsagasan, Agwa Mistawasis Nêhiyawak First Nation, Otsinia Pogo Mokinstis, Nawigan Migwak, Nigoe Awa Karen Head, Nutue Awa Keep Head, or Karen Hines, and Notue Awa Keep Head. I'm a mama to 5 incredible humans, Skyla, Pierce, London, Phoenix, and Chael. And I'm a two-spirit storyteller who is a midwife in the making. And I coax baby down with the star, from the stars with poetry and songs and drums and medicine. And finally,
So beautiful.
43, and I
Wow.
feel like this second wave of life is happening.
I'd love to know what land you're on right now and what land pushes and pulls you at any given point. When we talk about embodiment, you're so embodied, and where are you now? And also beyond that, what land affects you?
So I'm currently still on Treaty 7 lands. So hanging out with like the Niitsitapi, the Stoney Nakoda, Métis Region 5, and Tsuut'ina. And I hang out a lot on the internet, though, in unceded Musqueam, Lekwungen, Tsleil-Waututh, and I think I would have this memorized after hearing it after a year of so-called Vancouver at UBC, and that's where I will be moving to anytime between May and August. So it's sunny and it's brown and it's relatively dry out because all the snow melted, and holding in the warmth of the sun, but the ground is still cold. I love the transition into spring. You get a little bit of spring fever, and because those hopes and those seeds that you were reflecting on and either letting go or replanting this spring. And it's like that fever of what if? And I'll see what happens come summer, early fall, and see what happens. And then and then you just shift from there, and a little bit of mourning and maybe those blooms that didn't happen for you that you really wanted to. And that's okay though. You're allowed to be sad and let go.
Yeah.
And really put that your time and your effort into what you seeded. And okay, I'm going this way now.
Ooh, gosh, you are a poet, and we all know it.
That too.
Yes. Yeah, how beautiful though. How beautiful. And are there other lands that push and pull? I mean, every land pushes and pulls on us.
Honestly,
Any
yeah.
notable?
So
Yeah.
those unceded Musqueam territories, which I just hung out with 2 weeks ago, the waterfalls, the fog, the rain, and then hearing there's whales just outside the window if you want to if they show up again. And so shifting into a new relationship with water, because being in the mountains in here has been very mountain driven for me. And now I'm like, oh, you're going to go get a new relationship with big water. And I am looking forward to that. Those lands have been where I've always run away for spring break with my kiddos. So it's weird not to be there now while spring break is happening. And the healing, and also how water makes you feel so small. Like it does to me, these big ocean waters.
Yeah.
And so overwhelmed. But again, for the next 3 years, because at the start of midwifery school, my whole thing was surrender. And you got to surrender to water. You got to flow. You got to let it either be a tiny little dribble that's just getting through some mountain creeks and peaks, to the full on whoosh of the ocean. Is hey, come on, let's go. And
Amazing.
just flow. So that I am looking forward to. I come from an education background. I got my early childhood education, so my BEd, from U of C, and my undergrad was a Bachelor of General Studies to get into that. So I was a
Mm.
kindergarten teacher for a really long time at Tsuut'ina Nation. And then the loss of my ceremonial elder, so the late Sharon Prue Turner, also a Two-Spirit Métis poet. The grief of that was the second largest impact of death that I had. The loss of my great grandma was the first one, and then it just I couldn't even human, like couldn't mom, couldn't human, couldn't teacher, couldn't anything, and then that shifted of my ending in like the formal education classroom realm. And I shifted into birth work, so taking doula training, postpartum healing lodge training through Rianne Madison, and building those connections and ties. I did yoga teacher training. Again, I'm like, oh, this helps with breathing, doing birth support. How do
Yeah.
you be that like center of calm in when birth is just unraveling at you? And you're like,
Mm.
please let me hold on to something.
Mhm.
And it also helped with the learning of movement through uncomfortability. You don't want to belong in your own skin, but you have to be there. Doing that for years and then shifting and like, oh, hey, you still have a B.Ed, you can still teach anything. So that's when I shifted into taking Sharon's lodge teachings with me, listening to other birth workers with me and elders and going, oh, I can do moon tune teachings. I can do prenatal education. I can teach about parenting and invoking like poetry prompts to give that back to how do I navigate my feelings? This is how I do it. This is how I tend to myself for myself. And here are prompts and cues to help you also navigate your life when it feels like it's happening at you, not with you or for you. And working with, you say a lot heavily, writing for New Tribe magazine, all of these things started to come into my life. And then I shifted, oh, I want more responsibility after having
Mm.
negative impacts of being a birth worker in hospital settings and being told you aren't medical enough. You don't get to take care of, your patients, your clients that way. And that's when it's like, you know what? Fine. I will go into midwifery school then, and I will be the midwife. I will be the medical provider.
Wow.
And that is how I shifted into the midwifery program at UBC. I am like 2.5 weeks away from finishing my first year. And when we talk about plans and seedings, I was like, last spring, I was so anxious. I was working full time, side hustles because I wasn't making enough to barely pay my rent and doing the prerequisite for this program. I think I would have got my acceptance letter and I would have started my interview process around this time. It
Wow.
was just like the shift of like, yeah, I went for it even when it was hard. And now I'm finishing my first year.
Wow.
I
What
was
good
just
and what
like,
ado. Greetings, love, and respect to you for that. That's
yeah.
amazing. How old are your children? What are their ranges?
Sila's 20. The
Oh,
twins will be 18 in less than a month. And
gosh.
the little boys are 14 and 13.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So beautiful. And the difference between a doula and a midwife are the medical training, or
Yeah.
what are the
So
main differences?
I always tell people as a doula, I'm that auntie who shows up to give emotional waist up support. I have nothing to do with waist below.
In the
And
regions.
right?
Yeah.
Not my
Yeah.
rules. So I'm there to hold hands and bring warm cloths and sing songs and
Oh,
really
that's
just like
amazing.
focus on the breath. But you're doing such a great job. And I put like spray onto cloths when you can't smudge in the room. Then put that on your face instead and massage your feet. And do you need more water? That is the role of a doula, right?
Okay.
And then midwife is everything. Just right, your medical care provider, your primary healthcare provider, who does
Okay.
all the major everything else. And so it's a nice tandem to work with midwives as a birth worker, as a doula, and to
Mhm.
say, I know you have to go do your anecdotal notes. I know you have to chart. I know you have to do this and that. So it's a nice layoff of being like, I can hold emotional space the whole time while you come in and out as you have other clinical responsibilities to do.
And plus the indigenous part of that, how does that entangle with what you're doing as a doula and as you're moving into midwifery?
I am still holding ceremony at the center of this. This is so like, how do I still protect kin if I do end up in hospital settings? And it becomes that like, how do you protect both kinship and yourself as you walk through the spaces of like systematic institutional racism? Because you're not obliviated from it once you're the role of midwife,
Right.
and you
Oh, I'm
still have to
sure.
navigate. I want to hold this space to the best of my ability, that this will be safe, that I have listened to my kin and I have taken care of them to the best of my responsibilities, which I also like, I have ethics to uphold. I have rights and responsibilities to uphold to the hospital, to my boards, to my peoples. And then how do I find like that wiggle? Like I'm already going, how do I hold this role different? This is going to be very different than being a doula. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
after the birth, I would come with food for 4 days and visit and hang out. Midwives, yes, we do those like postpartum visits. And I was like, well, how do I bring food the whole time to everybody? Because you can't be like, well, I brought food because to them because I had time, but I didn't to you. Like that would be so disheartening if like I heard, oh, my midwife brought me them food, but not me. How come? What
Mm.
happened? And so it's a different relationship that I'm already like, how do I navigate this? And I'm already like, hey, how do I bring in a collective of birth workers with me? Because that role has to shift. I do have to let go of some things and
Yeah.
shift that into the hands of others. And so how do I still keep birth worker kin and community around me so I can take greater responsibility for other things? But those foods, those medicines, those teas, somebody else is still responsible for, and I still get to be within that little bubble with.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and just the way that you described all the aspects of your life is incredibly round. And so
Yes.
that's the word that comes to mind. Because it doesn't have the edges of where we generally seek identity or like edges and boundaries. You really are entangling all of these parts of yourself in the most beautiful ways. And I think people need to do that more. People talk about boxes, they keep it, but everything that you've talked about, your own children and your education and your elders and your poetry and your two-spiritness and all of that feels like part of some big round adventure.
I agree. I think
I don't
people
know why. I mean, that's just what came to
made
mind.
the decision to do that. Like,
Yeah.
all of me has to show up or I don't do well. And I am no longer willing to self sacrifice your comfortability for my wellness. And the places and people that don't want that,
Yeah.
that is fine and go that way. Because over there, I have found when I'm like, hey, my kiddos do have to show up with me because I don't have childcare. Hey, I have to work flexible hours because my kiddos have greater needs, but I still have to pay rent. Yep, they can come along. We'll keep them busy and organized while
Yeah.
you do your thing. Those people are also the ones who genuinely value like single motherhood and kiddos and well community. because you can't preach that's what you want to do. And it's unprofessional of you to even ask this.
Right. And then not just the people that even abide it, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the raising up of nations and the healing of where we are. Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot. I'm so happy you always name your true spirit identity. And I've been thinking recently about that as really our future and such an expansive way to be in the world. That's how I feel from my perspective is it just opens things up. And how does that work where you are in the world and you do always include that, you always include that there's a two spirit going on. Can you explain how you are envisioning that and embracing that?
As I've gotten older, I've shifted into that identity that I am whole on my own to tend to community. And within that, so leading ceremony, I now have a ceremonial partner, Elijah Ermine. He's the sweetgrass to my sage, but I am already capable of doing everything on my own. I want to be on this journey with him. I want to hold lodge and pipe with him to support our entire community, to make it stronger. And the nice thing is that we can't always hold ceremony together. We both have like prioritized my school. And so he'll hold things or I will do things, but we always talk about each other. And like he will hold a workshop and read my poetry just to be like, she needs to be here in the space and in the energy.
Mm.
And then knowing that I walk the path alone a lot. I'm never actually ever alone. I have all these ancestors beside me and behind me. And I have all these like two spirit and queer kin to move forward to hold. And so it's not a lonely road. I'm just alone sometimes. And within that whole identity, there's this I don't know, like the perception of otherness that I kind of feared for a little while. When you tell people like I'm two spirit or I'm bisexual, should I
Mhm.
still be in the same change room as everybody else? It's not a comfortable feeling. You find out people's biphobia, transphobia,
Right?
phobia,
Yeah, the
pretty
biphobia
fast.
is real.
The biphobia is very and the way that people hold my gifts, that is the other part. If they don't already know that about me and then it's disclosed, I have absolutely been cut off from female friendships who are
Wow.
like, "What do you want, my man?" And I'm like, "Ugh,
Ah,
do
okay.
I though? Maybe be worried about yourself. You're
That's right.
significantly prettier in this relationship." But
Oh, yeah.
I can feel those shifts of insecurity come up in others. And so I've
Mm.
had to navigate that doesn't belong to me. That belongs to
Yes.
you. And navigating boundaries really well. That is in the role of a ceremony, keeping people safe. Because I've been hurt in ceremony, particularly by like cis straight dudes. And I think of the old teachings of where you would never say no to your elder because they would never put you in a position where you'd have to say no for your own protection.
Yes.
So
Very
that
good point.
is my biggest takeaway in terms of ceremony,
Mhm.
guiding birth as ceremony, as a midwife, the trust that comes into the role of walking all these realms with all of this like different type of knowledge coming either medical systems, ancestors, community, motherhood. How do I navigate all those with trust? Because they're all positions that people can be put in vulnerability, especially when people are reconnecting and they're looking for something safe and secure. And I don't ever want to put people in a position of power imbalance and discomfort. And that is up to me to navigate well and intentionally. And so I think outside of sexuality, that like two spirit is navigating all of those realms that I talked about to make sure our community is well. And so I have to be well to do that as well. How are my boundaries? Am I sleeping? Am I eating? Am I moving? Am I nourishing myself? Because I can't give those away if they're not within here first.
Mm. And within I also identify as two spirit and, queer often. And within our spaces, I do find that even like almost especially among the elders, there's kind of like you know, but not even fear, just like no idea. Just like, okay, you're from the moon. There's such a past that I would say our Indigenous communities have honoring two spirit people, and also the colonization that's come super recently,
Yeah.
and and how that builds into fear. It's a lot about the unknown, and it's a lot about assumptions of what that means. I mean, your definition of what that means, again, like it's so expansive. It's not limiting. You're not saying I'm in this particular box. It's almost like I'm expanded far beyond the boxes that we're required to sit in and be damaged by, honestly. There's the inside our communities, and then there's also the outside our communities too. How do you navigate those two separate ways, I would say?
I find it more comfortable, I would say, within our own community circles. It's easier to navigate within my like very central circles because these are the people that I've raised my kids with, that I've lodged with, that I have welcomed into my life. And so that is like my home center of comfortability. And I just get to be me. Whereas I find then that outside circle of our greater community then turning into a mouthpiece, like and then afterthought. Oh, we should invite them. Oh, we don't have any two spirit people. Do you know anybody? Oh, quick, like let's think of somebody that we know to bring along. But then it's check marked, and then we're like, oh, of course we had to think of you. Well, then why did I get an invite like a week before? Like
Right.
that you've been planning for a long time. And then outside of our community, again, it feels always very check marky. Do we have somebody Indigenous? Do we have somebody that's two spirit on the panel to look back at us? Not because we
Mhm.
want genuine connection or relationship, but because it might get us better grant funding if you're involved. And that's been like the majority of the feeling. And I think that's been reflected if you look around who's in my outer scopes of who I do collaborate with or who does uphold or who I uphold. It's very minimal. And that is based on reciprocity.
Yes. Yes. Well, and truly listening to the teachings that you're bringing as well. And so can you talk a little bit about your mentor? How long ago did you lose her? And just
9 years ago, I want to say.
uh-huh. And
Two, oh no,
who
it
who
didn't.
was she? Yeah.
So Sharon Turner was a Métis Two Spirit elder, born, I want to say, like in Ontario, but shifted into Calgary. And I met them because I was going to University of Calgary and their daughter and was in my at the native like the Red Lodge. And I was 20 when I started school. So maybe I was like 22 when I was sort of like, I got like, what is this ceremony thing? What is
Mm,
this thing that's like showing up in my dreams and I'm being called to go to? And I started asking around. A lot of people just scared me about ceremony. And I think it was more surrendering, not that the event was like, I needed a firm control because I didn't have any on my actual life, it felt like. And I was talking to Barb and I was like, I want to do lodge. I don't even know where to start. I don't know who to ask. And they're like, oh, my mom holds lodge. I was like, oh, I love your mom. You're sick with your mom.
the teachers show
And
up, right?
right.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay. So went to lodge and I was just like, oh, I'm home. It was just like
Mm,
very butchy two spirit folks around and in lodge and laughter and the welcomingness of like, oh, I actually belong somewhere. It's actually okay to say I'm bisexual. It's actually okay to bring everything that I am with me here and to ask questions. I was never reprimanded for asking questions or doing something wrong, or it was always just very gentle. And when you cried, you were supposed to cry and let those tears go, not again, be reprimanded for having feelings in a lodge, which later happened to me after her death. So that's, I think, what are we, 10 years of lodging before she passed
mm,
away. And so in that lodge, she also got a lot of her teachings from a Cree elder, Paul Morin. And so a lot of that's like who named me and my kids. And guided and helped transfer um, rites of lodge from Sharon to Bar. And so continuing to lean onto him for teachings after she passed as well,
mm,
for Barb and Fu, trying to continue the things that she taught in lodge at the beginning. It felt weird. Like I was letting out these like secrets and that one part maybe grief wanted me to hold her still close inside of me. And then I would hear in dreams or just like in passings of being like, no, you need to teach them. Remember when I
mhm,
said this? Remember when I said that? And I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Yeah, the youth need to know these things. And so starting to pass them along. That's where Moontime Teachings came from, was taking her teachings from the lodge and putting them into circle with youth and shifting. I was like, oh, bigger pictures of the acts of decolonization and teaching youth this is what colonization is. Here's
mhm,
how it impacted our knowledge system. So, kinship, parenting, ritualizing of different coming of age ceremonies. And we're going to focus on Moontime teachings. And by the way, this is an act of reproductive justice. Here's what that looks like. And so giving back to community through the Moontime Bake Project, you say always puts together like 150 kits, I would say we put
mm,
together. The youth put them together and we talk about how you don't need to help your community through not-for-profits or through charities or grassroots organization. Says, yes, we take care of our own community and I don't need otherness with money to say, yes, you can. And to
Can you talk more about that? That's a very interesting point. So not relying I
not
think I know where you're
rely,
going on with yeah.
we need to
Mhm,
exist outside of systems. So the not for profits and the charities, you put on a $3 million gala to make $9 million.
yeah,
So that's $12 million that could just go to people's bank accounts. Nobody
right.
has to get dressed up. Nobody has to rent venues. Nobody has to spend more on hair and makeup than some people put into rent in a month. We could just do that. But then you take away the centralizing of people's importance, patting on the backs. Look what
Yeah.
we did. It's already othering those that you're supposedly helping. And then how much gets off the top for administration
Yep.
costs? And then goes out into people and into community then as programs. But then again, people are getting paid to then do the things to help the people. I think it's the most like bare minimal amount when you could have said, here's $1 million into your bank account. Like,
It's so simple. It's so simple. And
it
then
is.
and then if the people that go to the gala, if they actually solve the problem, then they don't have jobs anymore.
Right. Then what do you do? And I'm like, and these people
Yeah.
like have enough money and also societal status that this is being volunteered of them. So they feel good about themselves in a very public way. And so this is why I love mutual aid. And again,
Yes.
being run by Black folks, Indigenous folks, disabilities, all the people with like the minimal amount of societal access are always going, are we okay though? We're not. People are not okay. And there is cash transactions, like the money is out there. But the way that people want it to flow, don't want it to leave their power thresholds. They would like it to stay here while keeping those that need it down here still. Absolutely.
Ooh-wee. Wowie.
Yeah.
That's the best explanation of that that I've heard. There's a whole book about that, isn't there? Like about nonprofits, and I mean,
Yes.
probably a bunch,
There
of
has
books.
to be a bunch because I'm like, you guys are just
Yeah,
holding the standards. You're not, because if
yeah.
charities and not for profits were eliminating the problems, wouldn't they have been eliminated like 100 years ago is when charities started to come into play? They
Well,
haven't.
yeah, and I think that's why on this particular day, because there's so much imagery of these people that are kidnapping other people and in the name of people that are in power, and it just goes on and gets higher and higher, and I'm always so happy when I see your mutual aid call, which is it every week? I mean, I see
Every
it
It's on Mondays
on
every week,
Mondays.
and I do
Yeah.
appreciate that people see the routineness of it
Yes.
and be like, "Oh, hey, I see you do this thing. How do I help out my friend? How do I get their name onto something?" And I'm like, "You can do that." I'm like, "Honestly, I just have Canva and I put something together and I
Yeah.
copy and I paste from Mutual Aid Canada and I put it on. But if I occasionally have the personal request, I just put it on and then I just follow up with them. I'm like, hey, I'm doing my thing tomorrow. How much money did you get? That sounds simple. But when like Taylor is keeping up with probably hundreds of asks,
Mm,
spreadsheeting it, keeping
wow.
up in detail how much people are receiving and then like on to the next because these asks are never stopping and Taylor is doing this on her own. There's no government funding grant application that Taylor is running off of. She is creating the safety net that everybody can do, and
Mhm.
that is the
Mhm.
whole point, is taking power away, because here's we keep giving that power away. Somebody
Always.
else will do it. Somebody
Yeah.
else will do. Okay, but that somebody else at some point in time is gonna have to be you.
It's
And
gonna have to be
then
you. Yep.
that is where I'm like cognizant of everybody has a different role and a different gift. So A, lean into the gift you have with your stars that you came down with. Shift into how do I make sure that gift is dispersed to community? Because if you hoard it, you're going to get sick. So is community. And
Mm.
then how do I take care of others sort of in that realm? Because I get overwhelmed that I'm not doing enough. that I'm like
Mm-hmm.
just sitting in my bed watching cat videos, laughing like Linda Belcher off of Bob's Burgers, and that's my life.
I love cat
And
videos.
that is just,
Yeah.
I have to be like, no, there's a role for everybody. And
Yeah.
if everybody did their role, we would be doing this, not this. So
And that
the
modeling again, like you're modeling that with the expectation that other people are stepping into their role,
yes,
right?
yes, right. So
Yeah.
it's I'm like, okay, within myself, I take on birth clients without getting paid. I'm like, I'm on my way to the
Mm.
hospital. I know this will eventually come back in my way somehow, some way. And it does. It always does. And the bigger picture, though, that I know is our community members didn't feel alone. They got birthed to be tended to a ceremony. They were more important than what they could pay me. That was removed from the question.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. How do you describe mutual aid then? If it's not charity, it's not a 501(c)(3) or whatever.
Right?
Um, how do you describe it? I mean, I think you did, but you know,
Yeah.
for those who
I
need to keep up.
I think of mutual aid as the gift of reciprocity
Mm.
with like this caveat. Everybody can be giving because we all share within reciprocity. Like we see that in how berries work. It'll be sparse in the winter. That's okay because the bark is still there, the roots are still there. So it's still in existence. And then those flowers come, and then they bring in bees, and then they bring in berries, and then they bring in peoples, and then they bring in more birds, and then they're bringing in the bears. And then they're dropping to the ground to make sure that they get reseeded on their own. And this is still here. So mutual aid is always this branch stick hanging out that's always there. So, how are you supporting this bloom? And sometimes it'll be bigger depending on your bank account. What is your role within society and how much can you give? What I'm witnessing now, though, is that those birds with the least amount it feels like to give are doing all the work.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And
Like in
those ones,
Minnesota and yeah.
yep,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And like the Taylor McNally's, like they're doing
Hmm.
all the work when there are big bears with big bank accounts that could be doing some bigger work.
Yeah, and I think that's what my students so in my Indigenous environmental justice class, the whole point of that class is to get the students to think about their own personal gifts, just as you're describing it. I may show this to them like in 2 hours because it's amazing the points that you're talking about, like kinship, reciprocity, and you're born. Did you call them star gifts? I love that. Gonna credit you this afternoon. Um, I think it's the hardest thing to teach, and they melt down. They kind of lose it, some of them, because they're like, "Okay, it's nothing that we've ever heard before." It's all about our careers and our high flying policy jobs. And so there's some anger, there's a lot of grief
Yeah.
of how come nobody told us this before? And then I think the fear then about just giving
Oh,
is that you're going to be taken advantage of. And it's
yeah.
going to be just them and they're going to be chumps and that's what they've been told their whole life,
Life.
right?
The
Yeah,
very
you're a
big
chump.
societal picture. Well, people are just
Mhm.
going to take advantage of you. And
Mhm.
what would be
Yeah.
the worst thing if I got taken advantage of when I thought I was helping somebody? I'm not actually getting harmed. I thought I helped somebody. Big deal. Other
Yes.
people who are like, oh my God, my money that I so like
Yeah,
generously give out. And now I look like an idiot. How dare you do
that's
that
right.
to me? And I'm like, oh, yes, some ego work we need to do on my friend because I don't care if I look like an idiot by helping people. Like, I would rather look like I have a big,
Yes.
passionate, generous, personable existence
Yeah.
than, oh my God, I look like an idiot.
It's
So,
that looking like an idiot.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
it's the biggest fear that stops people from this expansiveness. Again, I'm using that word a lot. And also the word legibility, that you can't
yes,
see it. It's not
right.
legible,
Nope.
right? Because it's not going to be like Alycia Two Bears, a cajillion dollars with your face,
Yeah.
right?
Somebody gonna
Um,
make a reel about this, and that gets
and
like
right.
viral.
With little sparkles, and that's always the payoff. Like, that's really important to really name this, especially right now. It always has been so important, but especially now,
Right?
because and this legibility too. Like, oh, well, oh, the other question was, what if other people that you're working with are doing it just for their ego?
I don't
And
care. At least the people are taken care of.
exactly. I was like, who cares? Go
If
with it.
if people's rent are being paid, I don't.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
the good. And I think the particularly we'll see this with students because like we're striving for our job and you're supposed to be doing this. And we have this very you are rewarded with hard work.
Yeah.
And mutual aid says you are rewarded for existing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
that is
yeah.
very difficult. That like softness
Hmm.
without capitalism terrifies people.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. Because that like 2, 1, come here, come walk, and I'll give you a cookie. Come do this,
Hmm.
and I'll give you this. You're never, there was
Perform a
always,
trick.
"Oh, do a trick, and then do it
Do a
again.
little
You
trick.
get good grades. I'll give you this.
Yes.
You do well in this, and I'll give you this. Instead of simply when I think about our communities, though, that first walk, that first laugh, celebrated,
Yes.
upheld, and not earned,
Mm.
um, just for simply existing. And
Mm.
that is a big scary thing about capitalism.
Oh, it's so ingrained. Just, it's so constant. So, I should have asked you before this, but can you read some of your poetry? Speaking of which, you're an award winner.
I
No,
am an
you're very.
award-winning poet, and I was selected for the Canadian League of Poets Indigenous selection.
Ooh.
So I got a poem put into there was 10 of us selected, and it's going into a chapbook.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
I am
great.
looking for one, if this will open, because I wanted to read a political piece.
And what do you mean by political?
I wrote about how Palestine and Canada and the United States are all like how repetitive genocide is. They've done nothing
Mm.
new. And
Mhm.
yet the director Spielberg, he was like, "Oh, if the Dakota knew like how bad it was going to get for them now, they probably would have fought harder." And I'm like, "Oh, so if you thought we had known now that we were like under extermination, we would have fought harder." But people, so now
Oh,
Palestine
interesting.
is fighting harder, but not
Yeah,
like that. Like,
not in that way.
not in that way though. That now you're
Yeah,
a terrorist. Like,
right.
I'll read it. Let me hold on. Let me find it. Oceans, beaches, hot suns, dreams crushed alive, bulldozed by the thousands, carpet bombing, the old familiar tactics of starvation are built into our collective DNA. We remember children dying of starvation, each bison slaughtered intentionally for us to die, buried at Wounded Knee. The greatest massacres are left out by the right. Because civilization is a violent front. The poor kids in the global neighborhood know what happens when you don't fight back. Get yourself a friend like Yemen, all out for those who are crying for humanity to give a shit, but that would interrupt the capital goal. The mining of green energy, the shiny engagement ring always comes on the back of black skin. sign a petition, show up at the vigil, refuse to accept the ongoing genocide. Because wasn't it Cameron who said, if the Dakota knew what they know now, they would have fought harder? And how hard exactly does Palestine have to fight? An attempt of living labeled terrorism. Social media has not shown a reduction in violence or humanity, but the truth of the voices decentered until death is a permanent status. That was my first
So,
edition because I was like, there's a second one. I was like, how do
mm,
you label newborn as terrorist?
oh, goodness. So it was Cameron, and because he did the Avatar movies,
Yes, that's what it was
which
from.
I hate with every
I know.
fiber of my.
It was like Little London. My daughter's like, the first one is one of her favorite
Yeah,
movies now. And now she's like, what? I'm like,
killing the whales.
I know,
Yeah.
baby. This is just what happens.
Yeah, I was okay with the first one, but once they started killing the whales, I was like, never again,
Right. Yeah.
you know. Yeah, and it is that extraction of pain. It's pornographic,
Always
and
trauma porn.
it's trauma porn, and it really doesn't stop.
No.
And again, it's why your work is so important to me, because you have that really important sense of the embodiment of it, of the transformation, of the orality, you know, is so important. And all of that is ceremonial. When we're in ceremony, it's what happens before we're going out, or everything actually can be ceremony. I think of filmmaking as ceremony.
Yes.
It really is for the benefit of the community. It has that intention. There's a orality, and there's that embodiment of, and all of that combines to transform, which is what we need because we get stuck.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Cameron, what an ass, honestly. What an ass.
Yeah.
The Dakota would have fought harder? Holy. Does it what? That's the conclusion he comes
Like,
to.
you, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just like, yeah, that sounds about right. The like romanticized history of
Yeah.
we just had
They weren't
feast.
uncomfortable enough.
Yeah. I mean, if they just knew. Well, all right.
Yeah. Wowie.
Our existence is political. The shape of my brown eyes, the way my hair holds in the heat of the sun, my cheekbones sloped and cut like the mountains I seek solace in. Daily reminders I come from this land. My birth, a direct refusal of an ongoing genocide. My whole existence is political.
That's right.
Everybody who feels every, like I had shared on Water Day, why midwifery is so political. Even if you
Mm.
don't want it to be, the breaking of the waters is like as long as the water flows and the grass is green, it's that water that you need to protect. And so I share with midwives not from our community, this is still a treaty upholding you need to protect. This is your act of reconciliation to our community of the harms of this country and your policies and your institutions, because they don't belong to us. That is your role. So you don't get to exist like you don't know that anymore. And
Very
I also
good.
think
Wow.
about that for Black maternal health as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and our communities that have been kept away from each other on purpose.
Yeah.
We've been thinking,
Yeah. And I'm like debating which one I want to read here.
mm,
Nature versus nurture. The way he moves in and out of violence without shame or a sense of embarrassment. No apology, just begging to come back home after attempting to light me on fire, reminds me of his father.
oh my goodness.
And then speaking of fathers, this one's about my youngest, Shale. When your baby looks like your father, you want to heal his hurts, to take away the memories of a mother who abandoned, a father's hands who beat, kids who tormented and called names, by being a gentle, caring mother, one whose hands are steady, full of love. Maybe it will heal all the hurts of a father, of my childhood he never meant to be. You know, a few of us who have some father wounds in our community. I'd also
Yes.
really want fatherhood to be returned back to our community. We can talk about healthy mothers and
Hmm.
healthy families, but the like men folk in our realms kind of been still just left out to nothing and told
That's right.
you go over there and you do that. With no guidance. That is not kind.
How does that part happen? We try to bring the uncles in when they have a matriarchal
What
perspective,
I say, it's hard.
Um, it's
It's
so
hard.
hard. Yeah,
And I think about I see the little pockets now of people like in their 30s and in their 20s who are very much like, I'm raising my kids intentionally, or making a very big, like, I'm going to do it in powwow and I'm going to do it in culture and I'm going to do it in community. And I'm going to go to counseling and I'm going to try and be the best parent, even when I don't think I am. And even when it wasn't shown to me, I want something different than what I had. And so I see these like beautiful shifts, and there's no like perfect version of parenting, but that intentionality is very different. Not just sort of, I'm doing the best that I can with what I have in chaos. It's going, I don't want that anymore.
yeah,
So, okay, I'm not going to do that. But then the harder part, like with any shift in behavior, whether it's like personally or community, what do you replace it with then?
that's
Because you
right.
can't do nothing. And so I'm finding within these male realms, there's little, there's a handful, there's some sprinklings who are like, hey, I'm doing it differently. I might not be doing it perfect, but I am trying. And so you're like, okay, how do I get you to mentor younger men, men your age, and even your uncles to say, well, no, you can't sit there and scream at your kids or your girlfriends or your wives or your boyfriends. You can't just take off for days, binging or not. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. You can't just take off because I was overwhelmed.
right.
Nobody understands me. I'm like, go to therapy, go to a good ceremonialist, do
Yeah,
all the things so that we don't have to also be your healing center when we're trying to deal with our own things
everything else.
and we're still trying to be the best partner that we're trying to be, but we can't be your mom and your auntie and your cookum that hurt you still. Like, that's not for us to heal.
We have had it. Every woman I know has had this violence come down upon her,
Yeah.
and we're just done.
Yeah.
And those words can't even have, and the lack of words can't happen anymore
No.
either. You
No.
know, it's just women have just had it. It's just
I
like
know.
this is not happening anymore.
I
You
hope the
know?
rage moves us forward in like really big ways that we need.
Do you think it will? I mean, I feel like there's been the Me Too stuff that on the consciousness,
Yeah.
the overculture, and I do feel like it's been more and more and more awakenings for women.
For women, right? As always, the intersections are like white women still hold the majority of these power and access, right? They're not willing to give up a lot of their focus
That's
of
true.
power.
Mhm.
They don't want to feel uncomfortable. They'll cry and say, you're hurting my feelings. Cool. Our kids are in cages. I'm not so concerned about upset feelings at this point in time. And through like the whole Black Lives movement, the whole like we're listening and we're learning. Okay, it's 6 years and you're still listening and learning. And I'm gonna
Right.
retreat as soon as my feelings are hurt. what are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
what are you doing?
And
And
there's a considerable amount of power there for
yes,
transformation. Mhm.
always.
Mhm.
So those power dynamics still don't really want to be shifted. And I'm like, and it's not up to us to get them to shift. And so this is where I'm like, those existing outside, because I'm like, that's who do your not for profits and your NGOs and your
Oh,
charities,
yes.
right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when you shift into like, fine, I'm not dealing with this anymore, and I'm going to go deal with community. You still have to deal with people. You still have to have strong conflict resolution skills.
Mhm.
You still have to have compassion and empathy for yourself and for others. And that's still really hard for people. And then navigating just how to have some people just don't want to have uncomfortable situations. Like, I do not enjoy confrontation. And it is
I'm
a
only laughing because I just seem to always end up in that situation though.
and here it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And so developing those like conversational skills, those relational skills are still so important regardless. And again, how do I be a good community member? How do I undo jealousy? How do I increase vulnerability? How do I increase like that lateral love and supporting and being like,
Ooh.
it should have been
Lateral
me getting the
love.
attention for that, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, how do you build those skills? Because that's what community like demands of us.
Mm.
You can't be in it and holding space and loving people when like other people are being intentionally harmed within these spaces too. And so it's like back to the men conversation and like that whole like calling in. Okay, you've had like 3 different partners and you've had like aggravated assault charges and you've had these type of charges. But instead of shifting people off to jail and just sit there and do nothing and get harmed and not get harm undone, how do instead you get called in and go, okay, dude, this isn't working. It isn't working for you, your kids, any of the people that you've had kids with or their families. You can't feel
Communities.
good like this, though. It
Mhm.
cannot feel good to be in constant fight, violence, defensiveness. That
Mhm.
can't. So, how do we swoop these people in and go, you need something softer?
Mhm.
We have a lot of like unraveling to do and to tend so that way when we let this go and you go back out into community softer in a different version, you're not going to go harm like a fourth partner to have more kids with. How about you
Yeah.
tend to these 3 families that you've created and the extended families and be gentler not only to yourself, but also to those who harmed you. Because that is the other thing. Those people are, it's still like your aunts and your uncles. Whoever harmed you on the outside is probably still in your life. And the harm that like we've done to little boys is not very well spoken about, but
Yeah.
it's also reflected in our adulthoods and what's happening. So again, raising little boys well, just raising our children well. And with like, we tell them from such a young age, don't have feelings, don't cry, don't be hurt, don't be sensitive, don't care about others. Like, me and a friend were talking, like, she almost hit a dude like on a bicycle because he like swung out of the bike path sort of into traffic and she was the car behind and she's like, and then he swings back in, she swerves, but she's like, he didn't even look back,
Mm.
like nothing.
Mhm.
And I said, well, of course not. His whole existence is himself and everything revelates around him. Why would anything happen to him that he would have to apologize for? Like, we'll navigate around you the whole entire time. I said, and we've taught boys that from a very young age.
And emotion is Anger, period.
Anger.
Pretty
That
much.
is it. That's all you're allowed to be competitive, and you're allowed to be anger. That leads to jealousy. And so I think,
and violent.
And violent, like completely violent. And I remember when one of my, Fifi was really little, and he was like playing with a doll, and he was putting it to bed, and he was telling everybody to be quiet because he's putting his baby to bed. I was like, you're going to be a really good daddy when you're older. Hey, you just love your babies. And he was like, yeah, I'll be good daddy. And I was just like, I hate that we take this away.
Yeah.
You're going to be a really good uncle if you don't want to have kids. Who's such a great uncle?
Beautiful.
Right? And how do we give this back? And I remember reading by Bell Hooks, who said, little boys get so angry with their moms when they recognize they don't hold power, because they're the ones that they look up to.
Oh my God. You mean within society?
Yeah, you can't actually protect me. And think about the realm of single mothers.
Yes.
You don't actually have the power to protect me. And then I'm angry at you for that, but not at society for that. Because now I've been taught I'm going to take everything out on you.
Woo-wee, lady.
That hit me, and the own sort of stories of violence within my own children. As oh, yeah, they realized they didn't hold the same power like their dad did.
Amazing. Well, again, I just want to name how you name things in ways that bring that back to us. Lateral love. Again, gonna use that this afternoon.
This movement.
I know there's so much lateral violence. And the lateral love, yeah. And the great thing is you're not, you name it and transform. It's like naming, transforming, and bringing new names. Some of my students asked, if we don't speak Mohawk or, other languages, how can we learn about Indigenous environmental justice? And I think it is using other words within the realms that we can, and recognizing that as well. It's your legibility. You're making things legible. I'm going to use that word so much because it's like my friend used it the other day, and I'm like, that's the thing.
Right?
All these things that people can't even see that need to be like, look at there, lateral love, and that poetic engagement that wraps all of what we experience in a safety. There's a safety in that. It also cracks things open. It's challenging, but and the way that you are bringing those together, even the way you opened today in talking about the weather and the plants, is so poetic and helps us just calm down. And just grow, bloom a little, man. Just bloom.
Just go be in the sunshine for a little bit and just let yourself crack a little bit.
Yeah.
And just
crack
be open to sunshine and some warmth in your life. It's been a cold winter, y'all.
It's been a cold, long winter. Get out there, crack open a little. Just enough already. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Nêhiyawak. Thank you. Watkunuwaradu, greetings, love, and respect to you and your work. And I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you. And, you're just really doing such awesome things. So, Nêhiyawak.
No, thank you.